Hello and welcome to the VisMet Demonstration video. On the screen you should see three windows. Over on the right hand side we have the terminal window. To the left of that we have a typical File Explorer window, and going across the bottom we have the web browser, which in this case is Chrome. However, the software does work with other browsers as well. Going back to the standard terminal window, we can see a list of some of the parameters that we can use when we run the software. These three are actually required. These are the files that we need. So we've got the reference file, the source file, and the hypothesis file. The hypothesis file being the machine translation system output file that we're going to score against. On top of that we can select whether we want graphs or not, and whether we want pretty graphs. We can also select the number of bins in which to separate the scores across. So we don't have all the scores for all the sentences being shown in one page or one place. It's sort of separated out so it's easier to explore. We can also order our results by different metrics. So the standard or the default will be BLEU, because that's the most common metric everyone refers to, but we can actually order results by other metrics as well. So if we're interested in, say, using METEOR as our main metric, then we can do. And talking of metrics, we can actually select which metrics we want to include or not include when we do the scoring. So as a minimum, when the tool runs, it will score using standard BLEU, WER and edit distance. If we want to, we can also include METEOR, TER and the MT metrics, which are MT-NIST and MT-BLEU. MT-BLEU differing slightly from standard BLEU. Okay, so to run the software, we basically run a command like this. So there you can see we've got our links, or our three files that we're interested in. Then here we're saying we want to run the MT metrics. We also want the TER metric and the METEOR metric, so we're saying we want everything really. We're also saying we want the graphs, and I want to divide all the scores across 10 bins. And at the end here I'm just saying that I want to give my output files the extension name demo, just so we can differentiate it. Okay, so if I press enter, that will run. It'll give some feedback. It'll take a little while. So already we have our BLEU score. So this is our general highlight BLEU score of 0.2686 or 26%. Then we run METEOR, which takes a little bit longer, but that's done now. We've got our MT eval scores coming. And now we're generating all the graphs for all the various metrics. So you can see all the metrics are getting their own graphs. And after this we'll also have some general graphs created for the data set as a whole, which can all be explored. Now that's run. It's taken 33 seconds, and in those 33 seconds it's generated all the files we're interested in, and all the graphs that we're going to look at. These appear in their own folder here in the File Explorer window. So if I click on that, we can see some other folders which contain some text output from the actual metric processes. So if I go in here, we can see some of the output from the MT evaluation, and if I click on that, here we go, we can see some of the scores. So our MT BLEU score was 0.27 or 27%, so it's slightly different to the standard BLEU. We've got MT-NIST here, and we've got some ngram information, etc. These kind of things are put here for easy reference, and so you can actually mention them in a paper or article or whatever you happen to be writing. For display purposes though, we're mainly interested in the HTML files, particularly this one, because the main HTML is the starting point. So if I click on that, we should see it open in the browser, which it has. If I drag this up, this is our main entry point to the software display then. And what we've got, because we've selected 10 buckets, all our scored sentences are displayed across 10 pages. We also got graphs that we can view, which we'll come to later, and we've got some other links down here. So we've got the general data set results, which we'll go to first, and then we've got some search tool. So if I click on this, this basically outlines the general results, the sort of highlight scores that you often see in papers. So for example, our standard BLEU score for the whole data set is 0.2686 or 26%, and this is what you'll often see in papers. Then we have our MT evaluation. So this includes the MT NIST metric and the MT BLEU metric. MT BLEU here is slightly higher, like I said, than the standard BLEU. And we've got some n-gram information. Also we've got the general METEOR information as well. So we've got 0.28, nearly 29% for METEOR. So that's your data set as a whole. Now if we want to drill down to the sentence level, we can. So what these icons show here is the amount of sentences that are given a score and fall in a particular score range. So for example, this 0.6, this shows all the sentences that have scored over 0.5 but less than or equal to 0.6, and in this case there's 59 of those. So if I click on that, taken to that relevant score page, and what we can see here is a list of the 59 sentences. Yep. So we've got the 59 sentences in a nice neat table. We can compare them against each other. On the left hand side we have the sentence information, the source, reference, and hypothesis, and over on the right hand side we have all the scores. Now because we scrolled down we don't know which scores which, but we have this handy little tooltip or toast pop-up, whichever you want to call it, that tells us which scores we're actually looking at. So for example this one should be METEOR, which it is. Okay, now we've scrolled all the way down. If we want to get back to the top we don't have to scroll all the way back up to the top, we can just go there. And we have a couple of options here. So we have some clickable checkboxes, and we can actually click on the headers as well. So if I click on the checkboxes we can collapse and reveal certain columns. So at the moment we've got all columns showing, but if say I'm not interested in edit distance and I only want one of the one of the BLEU scores, sorry, then there we go, and it just makes things a little clearer and a little easier to follow, I guess. So what we've got now, we've got a reduced table, but maybe I want to keep everything, which I will do, but maybe I want to look, instead of having everything organised by BLEU, which is what we scored by, that was our dominant metric in this example, I want to look at the results by METEOR. So what I can do is I can click on the heading and it will organise this whole table by this particular metric now. And if I click on it again, it will change from descending order to ascending order. So there we go. So now I've got it where in this particular range the best scoring sentence for METEOR is now at the top. So if we look over here, the sentence is I'll take a slice of this, and the hypothesis I'll have a slice of this. So it's pretty close, and you can see how the metrics vary in scores. Is BLEU being too harsh here? It's given 59. That would be pretty good in BLEU, but the METEOR's giving it 96. So you know, which is METEOR too lenient, or is BLEU too harsh, or are they scoring different things? That's what you can explore. You can sort of, the whole point of this is being able to drill down to the sentence level and try and get a bit more meaning than just having a single score at the end that says 26%. So using all these options we can navigate the page quite easily. Everything's clearly laid out and easy to follow. We can get back to the home page, and now we can look at some of the graphs. So we have our general graphs, which sort of look at this data set as a whole. So for instance, this is just some information about the vocabulary sizes for each of the 3 files that I put in at the beginning. And as you can see, the reference file seems to use a much richer vocabulary than the hypothesis file, so the MT system's not quite generating that richness, which is probably what you'd expect. We scroll down a bit further. These box plots show the average sentence length for all the sentences across the 3 files. Again, as you expect, the reference sentences tend to be a bit longer than, in this case, both the source and the hypothesis files. Again, we'll probably expect that. So if we go back, we can look at some actual metric score distributions as well. So let's go to BLEU. This is a standard BLEU one. So at the top we've just got some metric information here. If we click on this, it'll enlarge it, and we can see the distribution of BLEU scores for the whole data set. Okay, and you can see where this peak sort of starting to peak around this 0.26 mark. So this is why we get this final score. Okay, we We can also compare it to other metrics. So I've mentioned Meteor a lot, so we might as well keep going with that. If I click on this, we can see the two distributions. So the blue in this case is actually the BLEU score. So this is standard BLEU histogram, which we can see there. And then the green is actually the Meteor distribution. So in general, at the lower end, Meteor has a much wider distribution here, and it's also at the top end, it's got a few more higher scoring sentences like the one we looked at earlier. Doesn't really say whether Meteor's correct or BLEU's correct, it just shows you the difference between distributions, and you can use this tool to help decide how you're going to explore which tool or which metric's doing what you want it to do, and so on. Other things we can look at is, well, there's lots of options, but we can compare BLEU with METEOR, and as you'd expect in this case, as BLEU tends towards 1, then METEOR should tend towards 0, which it does in this case. We've got quite a strong correlation. Many options we can look at really. So one final thing to look at is the search facility. If I click on that, we've got a list of all the sentences that we've had in our data set. Perhaps I want to find a particular sentence that I was interested in before, and I don't want to look through all the score pages. That's the point of this. So if I type in Japan, for example, now it's reduced it down to all the sentences with Japan or Japanese in the sentence itself. And say I'm interested in where are the Japanese books, then all I need to do is click on that. It'll take me to the score page with that sentence in, and it'll actually point me to that sentence as well, so it appears at the top now. So here we've got where are the Japanese books, and then I can think, oh yeah, that was my interesting sentence. How did it do? Well, it got 36% for BLEU, it got 46% for Meteor. They're a lot closer here. Maybe it's a bad sentence. And if we actually look at the sentence itself, it seems to have dropped the. So in the reference we have the, but in the hypothesis it's dropped the. And so it's lost a lot of points for that. Is that fair? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Does it lose meaning? Maybe it does. But you can see that it's a problem, and in the case of Chinese doesn't really have a word for the, so that could be why it's being dropped in this particular case. Maybe a different system might pick it up. Who knows? So that is a quick overview of the VisMet software tool. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.